You were taught that the Neanderthals lost. We showed up, we were better, they disappeared. But researchers can open your DNA right now and find them in there, not as a fossil, not as history, as code running inside your cells right now, keeping you alive in ways you have never stopped to question. The story you were handed about who won and why, your own cells disagree. They have disagreed every single day since the moment you were born, and nobody told you. The first thing to understand about human history is that for most of it, we were not alone. 50,000 years ago, at least four completely different kinds of people walked this planet at the same time, with different bodies, different faces, and different corners of the world to call home. And here is what nobody tells you. We were not the obvious frontrunners. One of those other groups had already survived for 300,000 years before we ever entered their territory, figuring out how to stay alive in conditions that would finish most modern people off inside a week. So when we finally showed up in their part of the world, what happened? Did we fight? Did we try to wipe each other off the map? Whatever happened next is the reason you are built the way you are, and the version you got in school skipped the most important part. You have a picture in your head of what a Neanderthal looked like, hunched over, dragging knuckles, grunting in a cave. I'm going to prove that picture wrong, completely and embarrassingly wrong. They buried their dead. They used plant-based medicines. They made jewelry out of eagle claws, which is someone saying, I want this to be beautiful, in a world where survival was the only real job. They kept injured people alive even when those people could not contribute to the group's survival. That takes something that looks a lot like care. Shorter and denser than us, wide through the chest with huge nasal passages that warmed freezing air before it could damage their lungs, their whole frame was precision engineering for a brutal environment. They were not a rough draft of a human. They were a completely different answer to the same question everyone on this planet has always faced. How do you stay alive when everything around you is trying to kill you? And they survived for 300,000 years doing it. Everything humans have ever built, every city, every empire, every piece of recorded history, covers about 10,000 years. The Neanderthals lasted 30 times longer than all of that put together. So the next time someone calls them primitive, the math alone ends that argument. If this is already making you question what you were taught, subscribe. Every video on this channel is the version of the story most people never hear. What happened when those two groups finally met is by far the most important part of this story. Around 40 to 50,000 years ago, our ancestors walked into Neanderthal territory. What happened in that overlap does not just change the history, it changes what you are. For a long time, the assumption was clean. We arrived, we were smarter, and we pushed them out. The better group won. But then, researchers got good enough at reading ancient DNA, and the clean story fell apart, because what the DNA showed was not a conquest, it was a family. Neanderthals and Homo sapiens had children together not once by accident, repeatedly, across thousands of years, in multiple locations across Europe and Asia. The two groups lived near each other for generations and at some point started building lives together. Those kids grew up, had their own children. If your family comes from anywhere outside of sub-Saharan Africa, you carry Neanderthal DNA right now, not ancient history sitting unused, active, working genetic code doing real things inside your body today. And what that code is actually doing inside you is the part that should make you stop cold. The question is, what does that Neanderthal DNA actually do inside your body right now? This is where it stops being history. This is where it becomes about you. Some immune system genes that help your body spot viruses it's never seen before, that came from them. Certain genes linked to how your skin handles sun exposure, also them. Blood clotting differences between people, pain sensitivity variations, even some of how people's bodies responded to COVID-19 came down partly to which variants they happened to carry. One specific variant made some people significantly more vulnerable to severe illness. Another made others more resistant. A group of humans that stopped existing 40,000 years ago handed us tools we still used to survive a disease in 2020. The code that protected immune systems, the instructions that helped bodies handle threats they had never faced before, none of that came from one pure superior source. It came from mixing with the people the old story said we replaced. Every time your body catches something before it takes hold, that is not just you, that's also them. This is where the story gets even stranger. What comes next is a human species we know almost entirely from a single finger bone found in a cave in Siberia. No skull, just a fragment small enough to sit on the tip of your finger. But when researchers pulled DNA from it, what they found matched neither modern humans nor Neanderthals. A third branch of the human family existed, one nobody knew about. And once researchers knew what to look for, they found its fingerprints spread across hundreds of millions of living people. People in Papua New Guinea carry up to 5% of their DNA. Aboriginal Australians carry it, and Tibetans carry a specific gene that lets their bodies work normally at altitudes that would leave most people dizzy and gasping. That gene did not come from modern humans. A group so completely lost to time that we cannot fully reconstruct their face gave Tibetan people the biological ability to live on top of the world. Gone and erased are not the same thing. The Denisovans are the proof. Surviving as a species does not require being the strongest group or the one that wipes everyone else out. Sometimes it just means leaving something of yourself behind in the people who come next. Some groups really did collapse completely. The tiny island humans of Indonesia, called Homo floresiensis, probably ended that way. Their island was small, their numbers always thin, and when conditions turned against them, the whole group had no way out. That is a real extinction. But for the Neanderthals and the Denisovans, the ending is different. They dissolved into us. Their identity as separate species ended, but what they carried caught a ride inside the children they had with our ancestors, and those children are still here. Extinction is not always a wall. Sometimes it is a door. You are not the descendant of the species that won because they were better. You are the result of a merger. That is not a poetic idea. That is what the DNA record shows. Okay, just sit with this for a second. If you have ever looked at a picture of a Neanderthal and thought, that has nothing to do with me, you were not just wrong about history, you were wrong about yourself. Your cells right now hold instructions written inside a being that survived Ice Age winters that would kill a modern person. Instructions that copied across when their descendants had children with ours and have run inside every generation since. Those instructions did not disappear. They became part of what we are. You are not the descendant of the group that won because they were better. You are the descendant of the group that survived because they were open. The traits keeping you alive did not come from one pure, superior source. They came from connection, from children history forgot, from mixing the official version treated as irrelevant. Every time your immune system catches something before it takes hold, every time a Tibetan climber breathes easily at altitude, a researcher opens a modern genome and finds ancient instructions still running inside a living person. That is proof. Proof that the story about who deserves to be here was wrong from the start. Your body has made that argument every single day since the moment you were born. It just never had anyone to translate. They are not a closed chapter. They are a thread running through almost every person alive today, not erased, woven in. And the next time someone tries to tell you the group that won was simply the better group, your cells already know the answer. They have always known. Nobody told them it was okay to say it out loud. Now, we've talked about how the other humans ended up inside us, but here's the question nobody thinks to ask next. Why did we almost not make it either? Around 70,000 years ago, the entire human population crashed. We got down to somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000 people alive on this whole planet. One more bad season, one more volcanic winter, and none of this story ever happens. Watch this video next where we show you exactly how close the whole human race came to going the same way as everyone else.